Her billionaire husband laughed cruelly, wishing she'd vanish, and the next morning she was gone. But what she left behind made him scream. This story reminds us, courage, love, and resilience can turn despair into awakening. Support the channel. One like, one share fuels more stories like this. Thanks for watching.
Her billionaire husband laughed on the phone, saying, "Her presence just irritates me. I wish she would just disappear forever." The next morning, she was gone. But what she left for him made him scream. Hello, my beautiful family, and welcome back to Mr. Peter's family. May God wrap every woman in his merciful light, blessing the hands that nurture, the heart that forgives, and the soul that refuses to give up. You are the song of peace, the strength behind every family, the prayer that keeps love alive when the world no longer knows how to care. May your days blossom with joy, your nights be filled with safety, and your hearts overflow with endless grace. But my dear family, why let silence win? Just one like, one comment, one tiny spark of love keeps our connection strong. YouTube might try to dim our light, but our faith and unity will burn brighter than they ever could. This is Mission 1000 likes. It's a promise that our love cannot be hidden. If your heart is true, please like this video. If your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." The credit card statement showed up on a Tuesday, and with it came the end of the life Carrie Trent thought she knew. She was sorting through the mail at her kitchen counter, barely listening to the familiar chopping sounds from the restaurant downstairs as her staff prepped for dinner. The envelope looked ordinary, just like the thousands she had opened before without a second thought. But when her eyes fell on the charge from Billionaire, the city's most exclusive restaurant, her hands turned to ice. The paper shook between her fingers as her reality started to shatter. Billionaire, the very place Ricky James always called overpriced and pretentious. The place he laughed at when she suggested it for their anniversary, saying he would rather eat good food than pay for a fancy atmosphere. She could still hear the dismissal in his voice, the way he brushed off her idea like it was a silly, childish wish. And yet, here it was. A reservation for two, confirmed and paid for. The date was printed in bold, black ink. Carrie set the statement down very carefully, as if moving too fast would make it explode. She just stared at the kitchen wall, at paint her parents had chosen decades ago. Her mind raced through all the possibilities, but every single one led to the same horrible conclusion. Her husband of 17 years had booked a romantic dinner at the most intimate spot in the city, and he had not said a single word about it to her. Not a peep, not a hint. She picked up her phone with trembling hands and scrolled through their last few messages. Nothing. There was no hint of a surprise, no playful secret, no anniversary she might have forgotten, just the boring, normal messages about restaurant supplies and if they needed milk. Their texts were all business, with absolutely no affection. Her finger hovered over his name, and the urge to call him right then was overwhelming. But something held her back. It was an instinct, a little voice that whispered if she called him now, if she asked him directly, he would lie. And she'd believe him, because she had spent almost 20 years believing him, teaching herself to take his words as truth, even when her stomach was screaming that something was wrong. Instead, Carrie opened her laptop with hands that just would not stop shaking. She had to put it down twice before her fingers were steady enough to type. The Billionaire website loaded so slowly, each picture popping up like a painful new discovery. Candlelight flickered in private booths. Tables were set apart for privacy, for whispered secrets and stolen glances. The menu changed every night based on the chef's mood, with ingredients that sounded like poetry. It was the kind of place you would take someone you wanted to impress, someone you were trying to win over, someone who was not your wife of 17 years. Her chest felt tight as she clicked on the reservations page, her breathing becoming short and quick. The earliest spot available was 3 months from now. The calendar was filled with red marks showing fully booked nights. But when she looked at the date on their credit card bill, the reservation was for tomorrow night. Tomorrow. While she was downstairs running the dinner service, managing the family restaurant her parents built from the ground up, sweating over hot stoves and dealing with staff issues, Ricky would be at Billionaire with somebody else. Laughing with somebody else, holding someone else's hand across a candlelit table. Carrie's vision started to blur, but she refused to cry. The tears could wait. She knew they would come later, in the dark, when she was all alone and could finally let herself fall apart. But right now, her hands were steady when she picked up the phone and dialed the reservation line for Billionaire. The phone rang 3 times, and each ring felt like a drumbeat in her ear. "Good afternoon, Billionaire. This is Gerard speaking. How can I help you?" His voice was smooth and sophisticated, the kind of voice that belonged in a place like that. Carrie forced her own voice to sound calm. "I would like to make a reservation for tomorrow evening." "Oh, people, I'm so sorry, but we're fully booked for the next several months. I'd be happy to add you to our wait list, or I can offer you a night in... What if there is a cancellation? Do you have a table that might become available?" Carrie's voice was surprisingly firm, even as her heart pounded against her ribs. Gerard's voice softened with practiced sympathy. "That's very unlikely, madam, but I can certainly take down your details in case something opens up. May I have your name and number?" "Actually," Carrie said, speaking each word slowly and clearly, "I'm looking for a very specific table, the one right next to the reservation for Ricky James tomorrow night." There was a long, telling silence on the other end of the line. Carrie could hear the faint rustle of papers, the click of a computer mouse. "I'm not sure I follow you, madam." "Oh, I think you follow me perfectly, Gerard. My husband booked a table at your restaurant, and I would like to book the one right next to his. You must have tables next to each other. It's a small restaurant, an intimate setting. I saw the pictures on your website. I will pay double your standard deposit." "Ma'am, I really don't think, triple. I will pay triple your deposit, and I will add a very generous tip for your discretion in this whole matter. All I am asking for is the table next to my husband's reservation. Nothing more and nothing less." Another pause, this one even longer. Carrie could almost hear Gerard doing the math in his head. Professionalism on one side, a very large tip on the other. When his voice came back, it was much quieter, almost like a co-conspirator. "The table right next to that reservation is actually free. It's our corner booth, normally kept for very special guests. Then I am your special guest for tomorrow evening, same time as his reservation. 7:30, yes. And may I just say, madam?" He paused. "I hope tomorrow night brings you the clarity that you are looking for." Carrie almost laughed at how delicately he put it. "Thank you, Gerard. I really appreciate your understanding." She gave him her credit card information, a different card from the one she shared with Ricky, one he never bothered to check. The deposit was confirmed with a sharp beep. When she hung up the phone, her heart was beating so fast she could feel the pulse in her throat. What was she even doing? What did she think was going to happen? But she knew exactly what would happen. She would sit at that table, looking elegant and calm, and she would watch Ricky walk in with whoever he was betraying her with. She would finally see the face of her replacement, the woman who had stolen her husband's time, his affection, and his loyalty. The rest of the day was a complete blur, like she was trying to move through deep water. Carrie went through the motions of restaurant prep automatically, her hands doing tasks they knew by heart, while her mind just spun in circles. She checked the inventory but did not really see the numbers. She approved changes to the menu without even tasting the food. Bellamy Knox, her sous chef, asked her twice if she was feeling okay. "You look pale, boss, like you've just seen a ghost." Carrie wanted to laugh. She had not seen a ghost. She had seen her future. "I'm fine, Bellamy. I'm just tired." "You sure? Because you just approved replacing your mother's signature pasta dish." "It is fine. Everything's fine." But her voice cracked, giving her away. "Carrie, please, Bellamy. Not right now. I just have to make it through today." That evening, when Ricky got home, he kissed her on the cheek with the same absent-minded gesture he always did. His lips barely grazed her skin. He dropped his keys on the counter and asked what was for dinner like he was asking about the weather. "I thought we would just order something," Carrie said. "I am so exhausted. It was a long day." He was already staring at his phone. The longest. He did not ask her why. He would have asked, years ago. He would have pulled her into a hug, would have insisted on cooking for her. Now, he just nodded and scrolled through his delivery apps. Carrie watched his face in the light of the kitchen. The same face she had woken up next to for 17 years. The face she had kissed on their wedding day. the face that had smiled at her as they signed the lease for this very building. When had his face become the face of a stranger? "Ricky," she said. He looked up. "Yeah, are you happy?" The question completely blindsided him. His eyes got wide for a second, then narrowed. "What kind of question is that?" "A simple one. Are you happy with us? With this life?" "Carrie, I'm tired. Can we please not do this right now?" "Do what?" "Have a real conversation with my husband." He slammed his phone down on the counter. "Where is all this coming from?" "It's coming from me, wondering if the man I married is even still here, or if I've been living with a complete stranger." His jaw clenched. "That is not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you actually looked at me? When did we last talk about something that mattered? We talk every day about restaurant orders and utility bills." "That's not talking, Ricky. That's just existing in the same room." For a second, she thought he might actually say something real. She could see the battle raging behind his eyes, but his phone buzzed and his gaze dropped. Just for a moment, but it was long enough for Carrie to watch his whole expression change. "I'm ordering Thai food," he said, his voice flat. "You want your usual?" Something inside Carrie turned cold and hard as a stone. "Sure, my usual." They ate in silence while the television blared, filling the empty space where their conversations used to be. Carrie just pushed noodles around her plate, planning the next evening. What would she wear? How could she keep her face from showing anything? Should she confront them right there in the restaurant? That night, lying next to Ricky E's sleeping body, Carrie stared at the ceiling and felt her marriage turning to dust. She'd known for months that something was wrong. The late nights, the new cologne, the careful way he angled his phone away from her. She knew, but she kept telling herself she was just being paranoid. But tomorrow, her paranoia would have a face. Tomorrow, she would sit at the next table and find out exactly who had stolen her husband away from her. She would put on her best dress, wear her most brilliant smile, and she would make both of them endure the most agonizing dinner of their entire lives. Carrie rolled over onto her side, turning away from Ricky as she closed her eyes. Tomorrow it would all change. Chapter 2. The Confrontation. The next evening, Carrie stood before her closet, her fingers trembling as she brushed against dresses she hadn't worn for years. Each one held a memory. The navy silk from their 10th anniversary, the emerald green from a party where Ricky had surprised her by actually dancing with her. From the bathroom, she could hear him humming off-key as he shaved, totally oblivious that his whole world of lies was about to come crashing down. "You're really not going to tell me where we're going?" he had asked that morning, and Carrie heard the panic hiding beneath his casual tone. "It's a surprise," she'd said, watching his reactions in closely. "Don't you trust me?" The irony of her own words had tasted like acid on her tongue. Now, she pulled out a deep red dress, elegant and simple, the kind that made her feel powerful, invincible. She was going to need that power tonight. It was her armor against what was coming. Her hands shook as she zipped it up, the sound of the zipper startlingly loud in the quiet bedroom. She pressed her palms flat against her legs, forcing herself to breathe. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. A little meditation trick her mother had taught her years ago. "You look beautiful," Ricky said, standing in the doorway. Carrie almost laughed out loud at how absurd it all was. He noticed her now, tonight of all nights. When he planned to be with someone else, he finally saw her. "Thank you," she replied, her voice perfectly steady, even as everything inside her was shattering into a million pieces. The drive to Luminaire was 20 minutes of pure torture. Ricky kept trying to guess their destination, his voice getting more strained with every wrong guess. Carrie could see beads of sweat on his forehead, even with the car's air conditioning on full blast. When Carrie pulled up to the valet, his face went completely white, not just pale bone white. "Carrie, this place is really expensive. We should have already made the reservation," she said, getting out and tossing the keys to the attendant. "Come on." She walked toward the entrance without a single glance back, her heels clicking on the pavement with a confidence she was faking. She knew his fear of causing a scene would make him follow her, and he did, always trailing 3 steps behind her, his presence like a heavy weight on her back. The hostess greeted them with a warm, professional smile. "Good evening. A reservation for?" "Trent," Carrie said clearly. "Trent." If the hostess recognized the name from another reservation nearby, She didn't show it. She just smiled and led them into the restaurant. Carrie kept her eyes locked straight ahead as they moved through the dim dining room, past couples leaning in close over candlelight, past an open kitchen where flames shot up and pans clattered, and then she saw it. Their table. And right next to it, separated by only 3 feet and a screen that offered no privacy at all, was another table, empty, waiting, set for 2, with candles already burning. Carrie slid into her chair with a slow, deliberate grace, making sure she had a clear view of their table and the front door. Ricky sat down across from her, and she saw sweat forming on his temples despite the perfect temperature in the restaurant. His hands trembled slightly as he picked up his menu, just staring at it, not even reading the words. "Carrie, why are we here?" His voice was just a whisper. "Because," she said, taking a menu from the server who appeared beside them. "I thought it was time we tried something new together, don't you?" The server began describing the evening's special menu, his voice a pleasant drone that Carrie barely heard. She just nodded at the right times, her smile never fading. She ordered the most expensive bottle of wine on the list, one that cost more than a month's worth of groceries. She smiled at Ricky across the table, but the smile never reached her eyes. They had been sitting there for about 15 minutes when Carrie saw her. The woman who walked into Billionaire was so stunning it made Carrie's chest ache. She was tall, impossibly tall in heels that made her even taller. She wore a black cocktail dress that perfectly hugged curves Carrie hadn't had since before their first child. Her hair was styled in soft, perfect waves that must have taken an hour. Her makeup was flawless. She moved with the kind of confidence of a woman who has never been told no. But she was also scanning the restaurant, looking confused, her phone clutched in one hand. The hostess walked over, said something quietly, and the woman's confusion turned into a dark scowl. Carrie watched as the hostess led her directly to the table right beside them, watched as the woman's eyes found Ricky, watched as shock, then recognition, then pure fury flashed across her beautiful face. "Carrie?" Ricky whispered, his voice choked. "Carrie, please, please, what is it?" Carrie asked, her voice light and conversational as the woman sat down stiffly at the next table, her back straight as a board. "Please don't make a scene. Please pretend I don't see what's happening right in front of me." "Which please did you mean?" "Exactly." The woman at the next table was now staring at her phone, her fingers flying across the screen, no doubt texting Ricky, asking what in the world was going on, why he brought his wife to their special dinner. Carrie could see the woman's hands shaking. She could see the rage and shame fighting for control on her face. Carrie leaned forward, her voice low enough for only Ricky to hear. "Her name. Tell me her name right now." "Carrie, not here, please. Not here. Her name, Ricky. Now. Or I will get up, walk over to that table, and introduce myself. I'll say, 'Hello, my name is Carrie Trent, and I believe you are sleeping with my husband.'" His face crumpled like a wet napkin. "Lisa Marie. Lisa Marie Carter. And how long have you been seeing Lisa Marie Carter?" "How long?" 8 months. The words came out broken. 8 months. Almost a year of lies. Almost a year of her making dinner while he was texting another woman. Almost a year of sleeping next to a man who was touching someone else. A year of making herself smaller so he could make a fool out of her. Carrie sat back and picked up her wine glass with a hand that was perfectly steady. Her hand didn't shake at all as she brought it to her lips. "Well then, let's enjoy our meal, shall we? After all, you're paying a lot for this experience." The dinner that followed was a masterclass in agony, every moment stretching out forever. Carrie ordered every course, each one more fancy than the last, playing the part of a thrilled wife. She asked the wine expert for his recommendations, nodding seriously. She praised the beautiful food, the amazing flavors, the whole atmosphere. "This really is something special, isn't it, Ricky?" She asked him questions about their own restaurant, if they should update their menu, about little things that meant absolutely nothing while her entire world was on fire. At the table beside them, Lisa Marie sat like a statue, carved out of pure rage and embarrassment. Her own food came and sat untouched. The waiter came back twice to ask if she was okay. She just gave a weak nod but never once picked up her fork. Carrie could feel the woman's eyes on her, could feel the anger radiating from her table like waves of heat. Good. Let her feel just a tiny bit of what Carrie was feeling. Ricky hardly ate a thing. Each plate was brought to him and taken away nearly full. He just sat there, stiff as a board, sometimes glancing at his phone when it buzzed again and again, his face a mask of pure misery.
You should answer her,
Carrie said sweetly, nodding toward his phone. She seems upset. Carrie, please, can we just go home and talk? Why would we do that? We're having such a wonderful time. Isn't this the romantic evening you had planned? A couple at a nearby table glanced over, feeling the tension. Carrie smiled at them until they looked away. The waiter brought dessert, a work of art made of chocolate and gold. Carrie took a bite, but all she could taste was bitterness. She's married, you know, Carrie said suddenly. Isn't she? Lisa Marie Carter. I looked her up. Her husband's a teacher at the high school on Riverside, John Carter. He posts pictures of his students' accomplishments online. He seems like a good man. Does he know his wife is here? Ricky's hands were shaking so hard his fork clattered on his plate. Stop. Please stop. Why should I stop? I'm just making conversation. Isn't that what couples do at dinner? At the next table, Lisa Marie shot to her feet. Her chair scraping the floor sounded like a scream. She grabbed her purse with trembling hands, threw money on the table, and walked out without a backward glance. Carrie watched her go, watched her perfect posture crumble as she fled, feeling only cold satisfaction. Are you happy now? Ricky hissed. Are you satisfied? Carrie set her fork down very carefully. Not even close, and the evening isn't over yet. She signaled for the check, paid with the card she had used for the reservation, and stood. Ricky scrambled to follow as she walked out with her head held high. She walked past the other diners who were now staring openly, past the hostess who looked sympathetic, and past the valet who handed over the keys with a neutral expression. In the car, Ricky finally broke down. It's over with her. I swear to you, Carrie, it's over. It was a mistake, the worst mistake of my life. Please, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. Drive, Carrie said. What? I said drive. I am not having this conversation in a parking lot. Ricky drove with shaking hands, and Carrie stared at the city lights blurring past. She had thought the confrontation would bring her some clarity. Instead, she just felt hollow. At home, Ricky followed her inside, still talking, still pleading. Carrie walked right past him to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. Her hands were finally shaking. Tell me everything, she said. And I mean everything. How you met, where you went, what you told her about me. Every single detail. So he told her. And with every single word, the marriage she had believed in dissolved like salt in water. There was nothing left but betrayal, and the knowledge that the man she loved was gone. Carrie did not sleep that night. She lay in their daughter's old bedroom. The room she had fled to after his confession finally ended around 3 in the morning. The walls were still covered in high school posters, frozen in time like a museum, a reminder of when life was simpler and love was uncomplicated. Ricky had stood in the hallway for over an hour, pleading through the door until his voice grew hoarse and cracked. Carrie, please, please let me in. We can work through this, as if words could possibly rebuild what his actions had destroyed. Carrie said nothing. She just stared at the ceiling, listening to her marriage collapse in real time. When dawn finally broke, she heard him leave for the restaurant. His footsteps paused outside her door one last time, before continuing down the stairs with heavy steps. The door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded final. With hands that felt disconnected from her own body, Carrie picked up her phone. She opened a new message to a number she had found the night before. John Carter's contact info had been easy enough to find online, mostly on professional pages related to his teaching. His profile picture showed a man with kind eyes and a genuine smile, holding up a book as if recommending it to the world. Carrie's fingers hovered over the keyboard. How do you tell a stranger that you are about to destroy his life? How do you tell someone their marriage is built on lies? Your wife is having an affair with my husband. We need to talk. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she sat staring at the screen, her heart pounding against her ribs. The 3 dots appeared almost immediately, disappeared, then appeared again. Then, the reply, when and where, just 4 words. No denial, no outrage, no confusion, just a weary acceptance, as if he had been waiting for this news. Carrie suggested a coffee shop across town, a neutral place where neither of them would be recognized. John agreed without hesitation, and they set a time for that afternoon. Carrie spent the hours in between moving through her apartment like a ghost, unable to eat, unable to focus on anything but the clock's agonizingly slow hands. Carrie showered under water that was too hot, letting it redden her skin. She dressed in clothes that felt like a costume. She drove to the coffee shop with her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Arriving early, she chose a corner booth where she could see the door. Dwarf walked in exactly on time. He was taller than his picture suggested, with a slightly rumpled look of a man who cared more about substance than style. His jacket was worn at the elbows, his tie a little skew, but his eyes were what Carrie noticed first. Kind, yes, but also devastated. She saw her own pain reflected back at her. He sat down across from her. "Tell me." So she did. Carrie laid out everything she knew, pulling up credit card statements on her phone with shaking hands, showing him the dates and times. Jun then produced his own phone, his calendar showing all the evenings Lisa Marie had claimed to be at client dinners and work events. They matched dates and times with the grim focus of detectives. "I've been such a fool," he said quietly, scrolling through months of documented lies. "I knew something was wrong. I felt it in my gut, but every time I tried to talk to her about it, she told me I was being paranoid, that I was controlling, that I needed to trust her. She made me apologize for even asking where she had been." His voice cracked. "She made me feel crazy for trusting my instincts." "That's what they do," Carrie said, her voice flat. "They make you doubt yourself, make you the villain for questioning them. It's manipulation." June looked up from his phone, and Carrie saw the tears he was fighting to control. "We have been married for 15 years. 15 years of building a life together, of planning our future." His voice broke completely. "I thought we were happy." "So did I," Carrie said. "I spent 17 years thinking we were building something that mattered." They sat in silence. Two strangers connected by the worst thing that had ever happened to them. The coffee shop hummed around them, filled with ordinary people having ordinary days. Then Jun asked, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. I have to confront her, demand the truth, though I guess I already have it." He rubbed his face with both hands. "God, how do you confront someone about this?" "Directly," Carrie said, remembering the night before. "That's what I did. I sat next to them at the restaurant and watched them squirm." Jun's eyes widened. "You were there? At their dinner?" "Oh, I booked the table right next to them. Made Ricky take me." Lisa Marie showed up expecting a romantic night and got dinner theater instead. A laugh burst out of Jun, sharp and pained. "That's brilliant. Brutal, but brilliant." "It did not make me feel any better," Carrie admitted. "I thought it would. I thought confronting them in public would give me some power back, but I just felt empty. I guess that is what betrayal does. It hollows you out." Carrie studied him across the table, this man whose life was now a mirror of her own. "Can I ask you something?" June was quiet for a long moment. She started caring more about her appearance. Not for me, I realize now, for him. She would spend hours getting ready for these work events, and when she came home she was different, distant. Like she had left the best part of herself somewhere else. He met Carrie's eyes. "What about you?" "Ricky stopped touching me. Not just in that way, although that, too, but all the small touches that make a marriage. He'd come home and go straight to his phone instead of kissing me hello. He'd sit on the opposite end of the couch. He started sleeping with his back to me." Carrie's voice wavered. "The absence of touch tells you everything." "Lisa Marie kept finding reasons to go out," Jun said. "Always some client that needed attention, some emergency. And I believed her because I wanted to believe her. Because questioning her meant admitting our marriage might be failing." They talked for over an hour, trading stories, piecing together their spouse's deception. The affair had been methodical, planned, not some impulsive mistake, but a sustained betrayal that required constant lying, constantly choosing someone else over the person you promised your life to. "I am going to confront her tonight," Jun finally said. "I cannot carry this around knowing what I know. Do you want me to send you everything I have? The evidence?" "Yes, please," Jun said. "And Carrie?" He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Thank you for being brave enough to message me, for not letting me keep living in ignorance." "We deserve the truth," Carrie said, "even when it destroys us." Jun left first, and Carrie sat alone, staring at her cold coffee. It felt strange, sharing this private disaster with a stranger, But June wasn't really a stranger anymore. They were now members of the same terrible club. Her phone buzzed. "Ricky, where are you? We need to talk." Carrie typed back, "I talked to June Carter. He knows everything." The three dots appeared and disappeared again and again before Ricky's reply came. "How could you do that? You're trying to destroy her marriage out of pure spite." Carrie's laugh was harsh. "I'm not the one who destroyed anything. You managed that all by yourself." She drove home, and when she walked into the apartment, Ricky was waiting. His face was splotchy and his eyes were red. "You had no right to contact her husband." Carrie set her purse down with care. "I had every right. He deserves to know his wife is a liar, just like I deserve to know that you are. This is different. This is just vindictive." "No, Ricky, this is called a consequence. Something you have clearly forgotten about." He stepped toward her, his hands reaching out. "Carrie, please. We can still fix this. I do not want to save it. Tell me something. Did you love her?" The question caught him completely off guard. "What?" "Lisa Marie, did you love her, or was she just convenient?" Ricky's mouth opened and closed. "I do not. It was not like that." "Then what was it like? Help me understand what was worth throwing away 17 years. "She made me feel alive again," he finally whispered. And those words cut deeper than anything else. She was exciting and new. "With her, I was not just the restaurant guy drowning in bills. I was interesting. And I made you feel boring." "No, that is exactly what you are saying." Carrie moved toward the hallway. "I am sleeping in the spare room. Do not try to change my mind." "For how long?" Carrie turned back to him. "For however long it takes for me to figure out if there is anything left here that's worth saving." She closed the bedroom door and then locked it. Then she sat on the edge of the bed, and finally she let herself cry. Her phone buzzed after midnight. It was June. "I confronted her. You were right. She admitted everything. She's filing for divorce." Carrie typed back through her tears. "Mine too. I am so sorry. Do not be. You gave me the truth. Are you okay?" "No. Are you?" "No. But maybe we will be." She fell asleep with her phone still in her hand. Chapter 4. Separate Destruction. 3 weeks passed in a weird purgatory, where time felt both frozen and sped up. Carrie and Ricky moved around each other like two ghosts occupying the same haunted house. Their paths crossed, but they never really connected. They existed in the same physical space, but lived in two entirely separate realities. Carrie threw herself into the restaurant with an intensity that had her staff exchanging worried looks. She arrived before dawn to prepare, her key turning in the lock while the city was still asleep. She would not leave until after midnight, perfecting recipes that did not need it, reorganizing storage that was already organized, anything to avoid going home. Bellamy Knox finally cornered her in the walk-in cooler on a Wednesday afternoon, the chilly air making their breath visible. "Boss, you are scaring me. When was the last time you slept?" "I mean, really slept?" "I am fine, Bellamy." "You are not fine. You are running yourself into the ground. And we both know this is not about the restaurant." Bellamy's voice softened. "Whatever is happening with Ricky, you do not have to handle it all alone." Carrie felt her composure finally crack. "He cheated on me for months with someone who made him feel less boring than I apparently am." Oh, Carrie." Bellamy pulled her into a powerful hug. "That man is an absolute fool. I just do not understand what I did wrong, where I failed him." Bellamy pulled back, holding Carrie by her shoulders. "Stop right there. You did not fail. He did. He made a choice, and that choice has nothing to do with your worth." But Carrie could not shake the feeling that she had somehow been inadequate, that if she had been more exciting or more attentive, Ricky would not have looked elsewhere. She had been seeing a therapist, Dr. Helena Wright, 2 times a week. Now, Helena had gentle eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a directness that Carrie really appreciated. "You are looking for a reason that makes sense," Helena told her during their latest session. "But infidelity rarely makes sense to the person who was betrayed. It is not a logical equation. People cheat because of their own issues, not yours. Then why does it feel like I was not enough?" Because that is easier than accepting that sometimes people just make selfish choices. If it was your fault, you could fix it. It is his character flaw. You have no control. Helena leaned forward. "Let me ask you something, Carrie. When did you stop writing down recipes?" The question caught her off guard. "What? You mentioned once that you used to keep a notebook of recipes, stories that were attached to food. When did you stop?" Carrie had to think about it. Sometime after we opened the restaurant, I guess, there was not time anymore. Or there was not space for it. Tell me about the cookbook you wanted to write. That was just a dream, not realistic. Why not? Because Ricky said it would distract from the restaurant. That we needed to focus on building the life we had instead of chasing fantasies. And what did you want? I wanted to travel to Italy and take cooking classes. I wanted to collect recipes from my grandmother before she died. I wanted to write about food as memory, as love, as the very thing that connects us all to our past. Carrie's voice broke. But that was not practical. So you made yourself smaller to fit his vision of what your life should be. The words just hung in the air like an accusation. Carrie wanted to argue, but she could not. Helena was right. She had spent years pushing her own dreams aside for Ricky's priorities. That evening, Carrie stopped at a bookstore and bought a new notebook. Not for the restaurant, but for herself. She sat in her car and opened it to the first page. Grandmother's Sunday gravy. The smell of this sauce simmering meant family. It meant chaos. It meant a love so fierce it had to be fed. She had started it before church, letting it cook all day, and by the time we sat down to eat, the house smelled like coming home. Carrie wrote for an hour, the words just pouring out. When she finally looked up, her cheeks were wet, but she felt lighter. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "This is June. I hope it is okay that I got your number. I confronted Lisa Marie. She is filing for divorce. How are you holding up?" Carrie stared at the message. She typed back, "I am learning who I was before I made myself small. How are you?" Devastated, relieved, angry, all of it at once. That sounds about right. Would you want to get coffee again? I could use someone who understands. Carrie hesitated only for a moment. Tomorrow afternoon.
Same place.
I will be there. When Carrie got home, Ricky was waiting with flowers. Red roses, her supposed favorite. Though she had told him years ago she preferred wildflowers. "I made reservations at that Italian place you like. I thought we could talk." Carrie looked at the roses. "I am not ready for that. When will you be ready? How long are you going to punish me?" "No, I am not punishing you, Ricky. I am protecting myself." "From what?" "I told you it is over with her. I am here. I am trying. You are trying because you got caught, not because you suddenly realized what you were risking." Carrie moved past him. "I am meeting someone tomorrow, a friend." She saw suspicion flash across his face. "What friend?" "June Carter." Ricky's face went red. "Her husband? You are meeting with her husband?" "Yes. We are both dealing with the same thing. This is inappropriate." "Carrie, you are having an emotional affair." Carrie actually laughed. "That is rich coming from you." "We are having coffee, Ricky. We are not sneaking around for 8 months. I do not like this. I do not particularly care what you like anymore. You lost that privilege." Carrie closed the bedroom door, leaving Ricky with his rejected roses. She texted June, "My husband accused me of having an emotional affair because we are meeting for coffee. The irony is staggering." June's response came quickly. "Lisa Marie said the same thing. Apparently, we are the ones being inappropriate. How dare we seek support? The audacity." Carrie found herself smiling for the first time in days. She fell asleep that night with her notebook on the nightstand, filled with one recipe and the promise of more. Chapter 5. Sanctuary. The coffee shop became their sanctuary over the following weeks. It was a neutral space that belonged to neither of their old lives. Carrie and June met there 3 times that first week, then almost daily, their schedules aligning like they had been designed to intersect. They would sit in the same corner booth and talk about everything and nothing. June told her about his students with an enthusiasm that made his whole face light up, transforming him from tired to animated. The ones who made teaching worthwhile, who suddenly understood metaphor, and the ones who broke his heart. Bright kids trapped in terrible circumstances. Carrie talked about her parents' restaurant, how it had been her inheritance and her prison. "I loved it once," she admitted one afternoon, stirring sugar into her 3rd cup of coffee. "When it was my parents, it felt magical. My mother would let me experiment in the kitchen. She would encourage every creative impulse. But after they died, and Ricky and I took over, it became this thing we had to maintain. A legacy I could not fail. So you stopped creating and started preserving." "Exactly. And I did not even realize I was doing it until it was already done." June nodded thoughtfully. "Lisa Marie used to encourage my writing when we first met. She would read everything I wrote and tell me I had talent. But somewhere along the way, she started calling it a hobby. He suggested I focus on things that were more practical. He gave a sad smile. I have not written anything but lesson plans in years. What would you write about if you started again? Honestly, probably this. The strange community of betrayal. How two strangers can understand each other better than people they have known for decades. Carrie felt something move in her chest, a warmth she had not felt in months. That is beautiful. You should write it. Maybe I will. What about you? What is the first recipe you would put in your cookbook? My grandmother's Sunday gravy. The kind that makes the whole house smell like home. Then write that one first. She could start building the book she had always wanted to write. This easy intimacy with someone she had known for such a short time should have felt strange. But June made sense to her in ways Ricky had not in years. They spoke the same language of loss and understood each other's pain without judgment. One evening, they decided to take a walk instead of meeting for coffee. The botanical gardens were open late for a special event, and the paths wound through autumn flowers blazing in the fading light. "Can I tell you something?" June asked as they walked. "Lisa Marie served me with divorce papers yesterday." Carrie stopped walking. "How do you feel?" "Like I should be more upset than I am. Like there is something wrong with me, because mostly I just feel relieved." "That is not wrong. That is honest." June turned to face her, and in the golden light, Carrie noticed details she had been too upset to see before. The silver weaving through his dark hair, the lines around his eyes that showed he smiled a lot. The way he looked at her like she was someone worth seeing. "Carrie, I need to tell you something, and I hope it does not make things weird between us." Her heart started beating faster. "Okay. You have become the best part of my days. I wake up thinking about what we will talk about. I go to sleep replaying our conversations, and I know the timing is terrible. I know we are both still technically married and devastated and healing, but I needed you to know that you matter to me a lot." Carrie felt tears spring to her eyes. "June, you do not have to say anything back. I just needed to be honest because I have spent too long being married to dishonesty, and I will not do that again. Not even with myself." "I feel the same way," Carrie whispered, "and it terrifies me. What if I am just replacing one relationship with another? What if this is just a rebound? What if we are both so damaged that we cannot see clearly? Then we will figure it out together as friends if that is all you want. But I will not lie to you about what I feel." They stood there in the botanical gardens as the sun set, neither moving closer, but both feeling the magnetic pull between them. Finally, Carrie said, "Let's take this slowly. Neither of us is divorced yet. Neither of us is ready for anything serious, but I want you in my life, June. Whatever that looks like. Slow works for me. I am not going anywhere." They finished their walk, and June drove her back to her car. Before she got out, he reached over and squeezed her hand. That simple touch sent electricity through her entire body. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. "For really seeing me always." Carrie drove home with her heart lighter than it had been in months. But when she walked into the apartment, Ricky was waiting with a face like a thunderstorm. "Where have you been?" "Out walking with June. It is almost 10 o'clock. You have been out for over 3 hours. Your point?" "My point is that you are spending all your time with another man while your husband is here trying to save your marriage." Carrie set her purse down carefully. "Our marriage does not need saving, Ricky. It needs a funeral. You killed it 8 months ago when you decided Lisa Marie Carter was worth more than I was. That is not fair. I am trying here. I am doing everything you asked. I never asked you to do anything except be faithful. That should have been the baseline, not an achievement. So what? You are just giving up, throwing away 17 years. You threw them away. I am just acknowledging what you already did." Ricky's face twisted with rage. "This is about him, is not it? About June Carter. You are punishing me by flaunting your relationship with him. My friendship with June has nothing to do with you. It exists because he understands what I am going through in a way you never could. He is a boring high school teacher who could not keep his wife interested enough to stay faithful. What could he possibly offer you?" The casual cruelty of that statement took Carrie's breath away. "Get out." "What?" "Get out of my sight. Sleep somewhere else tonight, because if I have to look at you for one more second, I will say things I cannot take back. This is my home, too. It is my family's restaurant, my parents' legacy, my inheritance. And right now, I want you out of it." Ricky grabbed his wallet and keys, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Carrie stood in the sudden silence and did not feel victorious. She just felt tired. Her phone buzzed. "June, did you make it home okay?" Carrie typed back. "Home? Yes. Okay? Questionable. Ricky and I just had a massive fight. He called you boring. I am boring. I teach Hemingway to teenagers and get excited about a properly cited bibliography, despite everything." Carrie smiled. He meant it as an insult. "I would rather be boring and faithful than exciting and a liar." "How are you really?" Carrie sat down on the couch. "I am filing for divorce tomorrow. I cannot do this anymore." "Good. You deserve better than someone who makes you feel small. So do you. Then we will both get better. Starting now." Carrie fell asleep on the couch that night, her phone still in her hand, and dreamed of botanical gardens and gentle hands and a life that might exist on the other side of this devastation. Chapter 6. Legal Warfare. Carrie's divorce lawyer, Octavia Russo, was a shark in expensive heels and a perfectly tailored suit. She listened to Carrie's story with a face that gave nothing away, taking notes in precise handwriting. Then she leaned back in her leather chair and smiled, and that smile was all teeth. "We are going to destroy him. Legally speaking, of course. I do not want to destroy him. I just want out. I want my life back. Oh, honey, wanting out and getting out fairly are two different things. Especially when the family restaurant is involved. Especially when inheritance and legacy are at stake." Octavia pulled up a legal pad, her pen poised like a weapon. "Tell me about the restaurant's ownership structure. Every detail matters here." Carrie explained how her parents' had left the restaurant entirely to her in their will, a gift meant to honor her passion. But she had added Ricky to the paperwork after they married, swept up in romantic notions. It had seemed right at the time. Now it just felt devastatingly stupid. "We will need to prove that his affair not only violated your marriage, but also impacted the restaurant's operations and your inheritance." "Were there any instances where he used restaurant funds for his affair? Any money that should have gone to operations?" Carrie pulled out the credit card statements she had been collecting with obsessive focus. Octavia's smile grew wider with each page, satisfaction radiating from her. Dinners at expensive restaurants, hotels downtown and in neighboring cities. Gifts that could not possibly be for you based on the stores, all charged to the restaurant's card, which means all taken from your inheritance. She looked up, her eyes bright. "This is embezzlement, Carrie. He stole from your family's legacy to fund his infidelity. This changes everything. Can we really use that? Is it really that serious? We can and we will. I am also going to depose Lisa Marie Carter. Her testimony about the affair's timeline will be crucial, and if she tries to lie, we have the evidence to destroy her credibility." Octavia's voice was clinical, discussing human devastation like chess moves. "This will not be pleasant for anyone, but you will come out of this with what is rightfully yours." Over the next month, the divorce became a war. Ricky's lawyer painted Carrie as an unforgiving wife who had refused to work on the marriage after Ricky's one mistake. They claimed she had abandoned the marriage first by moving into the spare bedroom, and that her friendship with June Carter was emotional infidelity that justified Ricky's affair. Octavia tore those arguments apart systematically with the precision of a surgeon and the ruthlessness of a general. She presented the credit card evidence showing months of calculated betrayal. She brought in staff from the restaurant who testified about Ricky's absences and Carrie's exhaustive efforts to keep things running alone. She had Lisa Marie deposed, and the other woman's testimony confirmed every sordid detail. The most damaging evidence came when Octavia proved Ricky had been siphoning money from the restaurant's account to fund his affair, money that rightfully belonged to Carrie's inheritance from her parents. The judge's expression during that revelation was stone-cold fury. Ricky's face crumpled when the evidence was presented. Even his lawyer looked disgusted. "This changes everything," Octavia told Carrie after the hearing. "He is not getting a cent from the restaurant. We might even pursue criminal charges for embezzlement." But Carrie felt no triumph, just exhaustion and sadness for the man she had married, who had become someone she did not recognize. June's divorce was moving faster. Lisa Marie wanted it done quickly to move on with her life. She was already dating someone new from her firm, flaunting the relationship on social media before the papers were even signed. "Does it bother you?" Carrie asked one evening. They were at his place, a cozy craftsman he'd renovated himself. "Honestly, I'm grateful. Her being so happy with him just helps my case. My lawyer is arguing she abandoned the marriage, not me." They sat on his couch, keeping a careful distance. They had been careful not to touch, knowing how it would look, but Carrie felt his presence intensely, her body wanting to lean into his. "Can I tell you something?" June asked softly. "I've started writing again. Not just lesson plans, but real writing. I'm actually working on a novel." Carrie's face lit up. "June, that's amazing. What's it about? A man whose life implodes, only to find that sometimes things have to fall apart to make room for something better. It's probably too close to home to be any good, but it feels right. I'd love to read it when you're ready. You'll be my first reader, of course." He paused. "What about you? How is the cookbook going?" Carrie pulled out her phone, showing him pictures of a notebook half filled with recipes and stories. "I'm thinking about sending it to some publishers, just small ones, the kind that do culinary memoirs." "Carrie, that's incredible. You have to." "I'm scared. What if it isn't good enough? What if it's better than you ever dreamed?" June reached out and took her hand the first time they had truly touched in weeks. "You're brilliant, Carrie. Your writing makes me feel hungry and nostalgic for places I've never been." That's a true gift. Holding his hand felt like coming home. Carrie looked at their fingers laced together and felt her heart crack open. "I'm falling for you. I know I shouldn't be. I know we should wait until it's all final, until we've both healed. But I need you to know this isn't just friendship for me anymore." June's thumb gently stroked the back of her hand. "It hasn't been just friendship for me since the botanical gardens, maybe even before that. I've been trying so hard to be patient, to do the right thing. But Carrie, I think about you all the time. I dream about a future where we're both free to see where this could go. What if we just crash and burn? What if we're two broken people who will only break each other more? Then we'll heal together. But I don't think that's us. I think we found each other at the very moment we both needed someone who gets it. That isn't a coincidence. It's fate." Carrie leaned her head on his shoulder, and he wrapped an arm around her. They sat like that for a long time, not kissing, not rushing anything, just being together, quietly certain that this was real. When Carrie got home late that night, Ricky was waiting. He'd clearly been drinking. His eyes were bloodshot. "I saw your car at his house. You were there for hours?" "Yes, I was." "Are you sleeping with him?" "No, not that it's any of your business anymore." "It is my business if my wife is with another man. I'm not your wife in any way that counts. We are just two people waiting on paperwork to make it official. You already destroyed everything." Ricky slumped against the wall. "I never meant for this to happen. I didn't mean to fall for her. But you did. And you kept choosing her over me, our marriage, everything. So don't you dare stand there and play the victim. I lost everything. The restaurant, your reputation. Was it worth it?" Carrie looked at him, really looked at the man who betrayed her, and felt something surprising. Pity. That's a question only you can answer. But for me, losing you was the best thing that ever happened. It helped me find myself again, and it led me to someone who sees me as more than just convenient. She walked past him to her bedroom, and when she shut the door this time, it felt final. Chapter 7. Freedom. 6 months after filing for divorce, Carrie stood in her lawyer's office signing the last of the papers. Octavia watched, satisfied, as Carrie initialed every page. The pen scratches sounded so final. "The restaurant is all yours again. Ricky gets nothing from it. The house is yours. And he has to pay back all the money he stole, with interest. This is about as good as a divorce gets." Carrie put the pen down and waited to feel something. Relief? Victory? Anything. But she just felt exhausted, like she'd finished a marathon with no energy left to celebrate. "Thank you, Octavia, for everything. Thank you for being a client who listened to her lawyer. You wouldn't believe how many people let emotions ruin their own settlements." Octavia stood and offered her hand. "Good luck, Carrie. I hope you find happiness." "I think I already have," Carrie said, surprised by how sure she sounded. Carrie walked out of the lawyer's office a divorced woman. She sat in her car for a long moment, just breathing. The signed papers lay on the passenger seat, looking like evidence of a crime, or maybe freedom. She wasn't sure which. Then she drove straight to the cemetery where her parents were buried. The grass had grown too long around their headstones. She made a note to call the groundskeeper. Sitting on the ground between their graves, she told them everything. About Ricky's affair, the fight for the restaurant, about meeting June and finding the person she was before her marriage shrank her. "I wish you could meet him," she said to her mother's stone. "His name is June. He's a teacher, he's kind, and he makes me laugh. He reminds me of Dad, actually. The way he listens, like my words really matter. He supports my dreams instead of waving them away." A breeze whispered through the trees, and Carrie felt like it was her mother's approval. "I'm going to make you proud," she whispered. "I'm going to make the restaurant a real tribute to what you built. I won't just maintain it, I'll make it grow. And I'm going to write that cookbook you always wanted me to write, the one about food and memory and family. I'm going to live a big life again, Mom, just like you always wanted." Her phone rang. It was June. "It's done. I'm officially divorced, as of an hour ago. How do you feel?" "Free, terrified, ready, all at once." He paused. "Can I take you to dinner tonight? A real date, now that we can." Carrie smiled through sudden tears. "I would love that. It's a surprise, but wear something that makes you feel beautiful." That evening, June picked her up at exactly 7. He wore a navy blue suit she'd never seen, and it made his eyes look incredibly warm. He handed her a single daisy, remembering she'd once said she liked wildflowers more than roses. "You remembered?" she asked, her voice catching in her throat. "I remember everything you tell me, Carrie." He drove them to a small Italian place across town. It wasn't fancy, just authentic, the kind of spot her parents would have loved. The owner greeted them like old friends, and she realized June must have called ahead for their special occasion. Sitting at a corner table, she realized this was her first real date in almost 20 years. It was the first time she'd sat with someone who chose her freely, without any baggage or history weighing them down. "I'm nervous," she admitted. "Isn't that silly? We've spent so much time together, but this feels different." Because it is different. Before, we were just helping each other through a crisis. Now we get to see who we are without our broken marriages. We just get to be. The server brought their wine, and June raised his glass. His hand was steady, but Carrie saw the emotion in his eyes. "To new beginnings," he said. "To second chances, and to finding each other at just the right time." Carrie touched her glass to his, to being brave enough to start over, and to trusting that the second time can be even better. The dinner was perfect. They talked, laughed, and shared food like a couple just starting out, when everything is new and exciting. June told stories about his students that made her laugh until she cried. Carrie described her plans for the restaurant's menu, wanting to use seasonal ingredients like her mother always did. "I want to honor what my parents built, but also make it my own," she explained. "Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. I'm trying to do the same thing with teaching honor the classics, but make them matter to kids who only know a world with smartphones." When June reached over and took her hand, Carrie felt her heart beat like she was 16 again. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Such a simple touch shouldn't have shaken her so deeply, but it did. "Can I tell you something I've wanted to say for months?" June asked. "Please. I love you. I'm completely in love with you. I know it's fast, and we should probably be more careful, but I can't waste another minute not telling you how I feel." Tears streamed down Carrie's cheeks. "I love you too. I think I have for a while. I was just too scared to say it. Scared that if I felt this much for someone, I could get hurt that badly again. I can't promise I'll never hurt you, but I promise I will never lie, never cheat, and never make you feel small or boring or not enough. Can I kiss you? Finally?" June's smile was brilliant. "I thought you'd never ask." He stood and walked to her side of the table. Cupping her face in his hands, he kissed her softly and tenderly, like she was something precious he had waited a lifetime for. Carrie kissed him back and tasted a future she thought she had lost for good. When they finally parted, the whole restaurant was watching. An older couple at the next table started clapping, and soon the room burst into applause. Carrie buried her face in June's shoulder, laughing and crying. "I think we just became that couple," June whispered. "The ones making a scene. I don't care. Let them watch. Let them see what real love looks like after everything else is gone." They left the restaurant holding hands. walking through the city talking about everything and nothing. They talked about their dreams about June's novel that was now half done, and Carol's cookbook proposal that she finally sent to a small publisher. They talked about taking it slow, even though they had already fallen for each other completely. June stopped under a streetlight and turned to face her. "Move in with me, Carrie. I know it's fast, but I'm tired of taking you home every night. I want to wake up next to you. I want to make breakfast together and argue about whose turn it is to do the dishes. I want all the normal, beautiful things that make a life." Carrie stopped walking. "Are you sure? What if we rush this and ruin it? We won't. We've both survived the worst. We know what we don't want, so we can build exactly what we do want. And I want to build a life with you, Carrie. Not someday, but now." Carrie thought of her apartment above the restaurant, where her marriage had ended. She thought of June's house with its updated kitchen, cozy reading spots, and the garden he tended so carefully. She thought about waking up to gentle hands and honest talks. "Yes," she said, "I'll move in with you." June lifted her off the ground and spun her around right there on the sidewalk, both of them laughing like kids. A passing couple smiled at them, and Carrie knew they must look ridiculous but didn't care at all. But that night, when Carrie got home to pack, she found Ricky waiting in the restaurant. He had let himself in with a key he was supposed to have returned. "I hear you're seeing him openly now, the teacher. His name is June, and yes, we're officially together. How long were you waiting? How long did you plan this before our divorce was even final?" Carrie felt a hot anger rise in her chest. Don't you dare accuse me of anything when you were the one who destroyed our marriage. June and I didn't even hold hands until after I filed for divorce. We did everything right. It doesn't feel right. It feels like you replaced me." "I didn't replace you, Ricky. I found someone who actually values me. There's a difference." Carrie moved toward the door. "You need to leave. This is my restaurant, and you're trespassing. This used to be ours. It was never ours. It was always mine, inherited from my parents. You were just allowed to be part of it, and you threw that away for something more exciting than our life together." Ricky's face crumpled. "I'm sorry, Carrie. I know I've said it before, but I mean it. I'm sorry for everything. I know you are. But sorry doesn't change what happened. Sorry doesn't give me back the years I wasted making myself smaller for you. Sorry doesn't undo the betrayal." Carrie softened a bit, seeing him not as the man who hurt her, but as someone lost. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Ricky. I really do. But it's not me, and it never will be again." She walked out of the restaurant, leaving her ex-husband alone with the ghost of their marriage. She drove to June's house, where a warm porch light was on and waiting, feeling like home. June opened the door before she could knock, pulling her inside and into his arms. "Are you okay?" "I am now. Take me to bed. Not for sex, just for sleep. I just want to be held." So they went to bed, and June held her while she cried for everything she had lost and everything she had gained. He didn't try to fix it or tell her to stop. He just held her and let her feel everything she needed to feel. When she finally fell asleep, she dreamed of mornings being kissed awake and evenings where conversation mattered more than silence. She dreamed of a kitchen filled with laughter and a life built on honesty instead of lies. She was building anew. Carrie moved into June's house on a sunny Saturday in October. The air was crisp with the promise of winter. She had surprisingly few things after 17 years of marriage. Most of the furniture had been Ricky's choices, and she didn't want the reminders. She brought clothes, her cookbook notes, her parents' recipe box, and her grandmother's cast iron skillet. June cleared half his closet and 3 dresser drawers for her. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. "This is our space now," he said as Carrie hung her dresses. "Change anything you want. Bring anything that makes you feel at home." Carrie turned and kissed him. "You make me feel at home. Everything else is just decoration." The first week was an adjustment. They learned each other's routines. Carrie was an early riser who loved quiet mornings, while June liked to stay up late reading. They figured out closet space and learned she squeezed the toothpaste from the bottom and he from the middle, and decided it didn't matter. They settled into their life together, with surprising ease after that. June made coffee every morning while Carrie cooked breakfast, eggs and toast, or pancakes on weekends. They would eat on the back porch, talking about their day. Then June would head to school and Carrie would go to the restaurant. They texted all day long, sending silly messages and photos to remind each other they were thinking of them. One afternoon, June surprised her at the restaurant on his lunch break. "I was nearby and wanted to see you," he said, a little embarrassed. "Is that okay?" "More than okay," Carrie said, introducing him to the staff for the first time. Bellamy looked him over with the protective glare of a mother bear. "So you're the one who has our boss smiling again," she said. "I'm trying my best," June replied with his usual gentle humor. "Keep it up. She deserves to be happy." Their evenings were for cooking together and reading side by side on the couch in quiet comfort. They made love slowly and carefully, learning each other's bodies with patience. Every touch felt new, every kiss a promise. Carrie was amazed how different it felt to be with someone who really saw her, who found her beautiful not despite her flaws, but including them. "I love your laugh lines," June said one night, tracing them with a finger. "They tell me you've lived a full life." "I love your reading glasses," Carrie replied. "The way you peer over them like a professor. It's adorable." That November, Carrie's cookbook proposal was accepted. The editor, a kind woman named Patricia with 30 years of publishing experience, called her on a Wednesday. "We love your voice. The way you mix stories and recipes together is exactly what we're looking for. It's not just a cookbook, it's a memoir with recipes." Carrie laughed and cried at the same time. "Really? You really want to publish it?" "Absolutely. Can you have a full manuscript ready in 6 months? I know it's aggressive, but we want it for our spring catalog." "Yes. Absolutely yes," she said, and ran into the restaurant kitchen where Bellamy was prepping for dinner. "They want my cookbook. Someone actually wants to publish it." Bellamy whooped and hugged her, lifting her clear off the ground. The whole staff celebrated that night, toasting with cooking wine and sharing stories about their own family recipes. When Carrie got home, June had champagne waiting, and dinner was already made her favorite pasta carbonara. "To my brilliant girlfriend, the published author. It's not published yet. I still have to write most of it. You'll write it, and it'll be amazing. And I'll buy 100 copies to give to everyone I know. My students are going to be so jealous that I'm dating a real author." "You're writing a novel. You're a real author, too." "Not until someone publishes it. Right now, I'm just a guy with a very long document." June's novel was progressing steadily. He'd wake up early to write, the tapping of his keys a comforting sound, as Carrie sometimes dozed on the couch. He let her read chapters as he finished them, and Carrie was amazed by his talent. The story was raw and honest about grief, betrayal, and finding unexpected love in the ruins of a life. "This is beautiful," she told him after one emotional chapter. "This is publishable, June. Really publishable. This could be big. You think so?" "I know so. You need to send this to agents when you're done. I've been researching the process for my own book, so I can help you." One Saturday, June took Carrie to meet his father, who lived in a retirement community about an hour away. The old man was sharp despite being 83, with June's same kind eyes and dry humor. "So, you're the woman who's got my son writing again," he said, shaking Carrie's hand firmly. "About time. He's been wasting that English degree teaching grammar to teenagers who don't care." June protested, but he was smiling. "It's true. You were meant to be the next Hemingway, but instead you explain symbolism to bored kids. Teaching is important, of course it is. But so is writing your own book." His father then turned to Carrie and said, "Make sure he finishes that novel. He's talked about it since he was 25. And Carrie promised, "I will." And they were happy. Shockingly, genuinely happy. Carrie's daughter came home for Christmas and was wary of June at first, very protective of her mom after everything. But he won her over with his patience and real interest in her life. He never tried to replace her father, but he found his own place in their family. He'd ask about her grad school program and actually listen to her answers, offering tips about teaching that helped her as a teaching assistant. He made her mother laugh in a way she hadn't in years. "He's good for you, Mom," her daughter said on her last night, while they did dishes and June read in the other room. "I haven't seen you so alive in years, maybe ever. He sees me. He really sees me. Your father loved the person he wanted me to be. June loves who I am." But her daughter still looked worried. "What about Dad? Have you talked to him?" "Not since the divorce." "Why? He's been calling me a lot. He He sounds really lost, Mom. I know what he did was horrible, but he's still my dad. Carrie pulled her daughter into a tight hug.
I know, sweetie.
It's okay to love him anyway. He's allowed to be lost. That's what happens when you make choices like he did. But I can't be the one to find him.
It's not my job anymore. I know.
I just worry. That's because you have a big heart. But healing is his job, not yours. And it's definitely not mine. The best thing I can do for him is to live my own life and show him that we can both get through this. After her daughter left, Carrie felt uneasy. She didn't want Ricky to be miserable, but she also couldn't shield him from what he'd done. She told June about it that night while they were cleaning up from dinner. "So how do you feel about it?" he asked. Drying a plate she handed him. "Guilty, which is crazy because I shouldn't feel guilty for moving on with my life. You can feel guilty and still know you did the right thing. Feelings aren't logical, they just are." "How do you feel about Lisa Marie? Do you think of her?" June was quiet for a second, choosing his words. Usually when I'm editing the ex-wife character in my novel, but it feels more like thinking about a stranger I once knew. The woman I was married to doesn't exist anymore. Or maybe she never did. I just invented this person, and the real Lisa Marie was always someone else entirely. Carrie knew that feeling all too well. She had invented her own version of Ricky, too, convincing herself he was loyal and loving when he was the complete opposite. Then one evening in early February, Lisa Marie just showed up at June's door. Carrie answered it, and the two women just stood there, staring at each other for a long moment. Lisa Marie looked awful thin, exhausted, her old confidence completely gone. She had dark circles under her eyes. "Is June here?" she asked. "He's at the school for parent-teacher conferences." "Oh, right." Lisa Marie glanced past Carrie into the house, noticing all the changes. New curtains, different art on the walls. "This place looks good." He finally finished remodeling the kitchen. "Can I help you with something?" I wanted to apologize. To both of you. I know it's way too late, and you have no reason at all to forgive me, but I had to say it. I ruined 2 marriages because I was selfish and stupid, and I was terrified of being ordinary. Carrie felt no pleasure in seeing Lisa Marie so broken, just a tired sympathy for a person who had made terrible choices and was now living with them. "Thank you for saying that. I hope you find what you're looking for." I'm in therapy now, 3 times a week, trying to figure out why I always ruin my own life. My therapist thinks I have attachment issues because of abandonment when I was a kid. Sounds like a total cliché, right? It sounds like you're doing the hard work. That's good. Are you happy with June? Carrie didn't even hesitate. "Yes, I'm very happy." "Good. He deserves that. He's a good man, much better than I ever realized." Lisa Marie turned to go, but then she stopped. "For what it's worth, I'm really glad you two found each other. At least something good came out of all the pain we caused." Carrie watched her walk away and felt a shift inside her. She had been so angry at Lisa Marie, but now she just felt sad for her. When June got home, she told him about the visit. He listened without a word, then asked, "Do you think she really meant it? The apology?" "I think so. I think she's finally facing her problems instead of running away." "Does it change anything for you? Does it make you feel different about what happened?" Carrie had to think about that. "Not about what happened. That's still a betrayal you can't just erase. But it does make me feel different about her. She seems less like a villain and more like a person who made awful choices for complicated reasons." "That's very generous of you." "It's not about being generous, it's just exhaustion. I'm so tired of being angry. I want to focus on what we're building now, not what was torn down." June pulled her close, and they just stood in their kitchen, holding each other as dinner was on the stove. The evening light streamed in, turning everything gold. Outside, the first little buds were showing up on the trees. It was spring, promising a fresh start after a very long winter. Chapter 9. The Crisis. 3 years flew by in what felt like a blink. Time just moved faster now that Carrie was really living her life instead of just getting by. June was deep into his novel, the pages piling up into something real and important, and Carrie's cookbook was in its final edits. The manuscript polished and almost ready. Patricia had called 3 times that week with exciting news about pre-orders and talk of a book tour. They had moved in together, carefully blending their lives with a lot of honest communication. Everything felt so stable and too peaceful that Carrie would sometimes just hold her breath, waiting for it all to shatter. The call came on a Tuesday night in late April. Spring was in full bloom outside, but a winter chill returned to Carrie's heart. Her daughter's voice was thick with tears she could hear before any words came out. "Mom, I'm pregnant, and Jake left me. He packed his bags while I was at work and he left. He left a note saying he's not ready to be a father, that this wasn't the plan, that he needs space. I am terrified and I don't know what to do." Carrie's world spun, but her voice was perfectly calm. "I'm on my way. June and I will get on the first plane tomorrow. Pack a bag for a few days, because you are not going through this alone. You don't have to." "Yes, I do. You're my baby, and you need me. We will figure this all out together." June didn't even hesitate when she told him. He was already looking up flight information on his phone before she even finished her sentence. "Of course we're going. I'll call for a substitute teacher tomorrow and get my classes covered for the week." They spent 2 weeks with Carrie's daughter in her tiny apartment 3 states away, just helping her sort through her options with support and no judgment. They held her when she cried and made sure she ate when she was too heartbroken to think about food. They went with her to the doctor's appointment where they heard the baby's heartbeat for the first time, and Carrie cried even harder than her daughter did. Carrie watched June with her daughter and saw a side of him she'd never seen before, so patient and kind, offering advice without being pushy, making her daughter laugh when everything felt hopeless. He helped her look up parenting books, set up a subscription for her prenatal vitamins, and just listened whenever she needed to vent about what a coward Jake was.
Yep.
"I'm keeping the baby," her daughter finally said, after days of thinking through every option, talking to friends, her therapist, and her own heart. "And I'm moving back home, back to your city. I can't do this alone, and I don't even want to try. My lease is up in 2 months anyway. You won't be alone. We will figure it all out together." They flew home and right away turning June's guest room into a nursery, painting the walls a soft yellow because her daughter didn't want to know the gender. June put together furniture with instructions that made no sense, while Carrie shopped for bedding and tiny little clothes that just made her cry. They were having a baby. It wasn't her baby, but still. Carrie threw herself into getting ready for her daughter's arrival, all while juggling the restaurant where they were training a new sous chef. Her cookbook deadline was coming up fast, like a freight train. Then there were her daughter's needs as she packed up her whole life 3 states away, all while trying to keep her relationship with June strong. She was sleeping maybe 4 hours a night, just running on coffee and pure adrenaline, and a desperate need to fix what she felt she'd broken years ago when her own marriage ended. The cracks began to show after her daughter finally moved in, with a move truck full of boxes and a belly that was just starting to show. That tiny little bump that would soon become a person. Carrie became obsessed with being the perfect mother and the perfect grandmother, trying to make up for all the years her daughter had to live with a broken family after the divorce. The fighting, the tension, the uncertainty. She worked herself to the bone, snapping at June when he tried to help and pushing him away when he suggested she slow down. But she couldn't delegate being a mother. She couldn't outsource fixing the damage she felt responsible for. "I can handle it," she'd insist, even as dark circles bloomed under her eyes like bruises. She forgot to eat more often than not, surviving on coffee, adrenaline, and pure stubbornness. Their communication broke down slowly. Then all at once, like a dam breaking, June felt shut out of decisions about their own home. He would come back from school to find furniture rearranged and schedules changed without him knowing. Carrie felt overwhelmed and resented that he didn't seem to understand the pressure she was under, the weight of trying to fix everything she felt she had broken years ago. They started arguing about small things that were really about bigger issues. Who forgot to buy milk? Whose turn it was to do the laundry? Whether they should have guests over when Carrie's daughter needed quiet. 6 weeks after her daughter moved in, they had their first real fight. Carrie made a doctor's appointment for her daughter without consulting June about his schedule, and he had to cancel an important parent-teacher meeting to be available. "You could have asked me first," June said, his voice tight with frustration he'd held back for weeks. "I have responsibilities, too. I have students and parents who depend on me. I had to reschedule 3 different families. She's my daughter. Her health comes first, and I thought you would understand that. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm saying we are supposed to be partners. Partners communicate before making decisions that affect both of us. That's what we promised. Partners support each other without needing a medal for every little thing, she snapped. That is not fair, Carrie. I have been nothing but supportive. But you're shutting me out, making all the decisions alone, and then getting angry when I don't go along with plans I didn't even know about. Maybe if you had ever had children, you would understand the pressure I am under. The words were out before Carrie could stop them, sharp and cutting like glass. The words hung in the air like poison. June's face went pale, the color draining away like water from a sink. That's a low blow and you know it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean, yes, you did. And you're right, I don't understand. Because Lisa Marie and I never had kids. She didn't want them, and I thought we had time to change her mind. But that doesn't mean I can't support you and your daughter. It just means I need you to let me in instead of shutting me out, and then blaming me for not helping the way you want. June, please. I am going for a drive. I need some space. He left, and Carrie stood in their kitchen crying, knowing she'd hurt him badly and unsure how to fix the damage. She called her therapist for an emergency session the next day, desperate for guidance. You're doing what you always did in your marriage to Ricky, Dr. Wright told her gently but firmly. You're taking on everything yourself and then resenting everyone around you for not helping the way you need. But you're not asking for help, clearly. You're just expecting June to read your mind and then punishing him when he can't. I don't know how to ask. It feels like admitting I am failing. Asking for support is not failure, it is partnership. That's what you and June promised each other. Stress triggers old habits, and you are reverting to yours. Carrie went home, determined to apologize and communicate better to rebuild what she damaged with her careless words. But before she could, June's phone rang with news that stopped them both cold. Another crisis was piling on, like cars in a highway accident. Lisa Marie had filed a lawsuit against him, seeking $50,000 in damages that would bankrupt him. The timing could not be worse. It was perfectly calculated to cause the most damage. June was already stressed about work, where budget cuts threatened his position. Teachers were being forced to reapply for their own jobs, submitting portfolios like they were new hires. The uncertainty was killing morale. Now he had to deal with a ridiculous lawsuit that would require legal fees he couldn't afford on a teacher's salary. This is retaliation, June said, staring at the legal papers with disbelief. She is angry that we are happy and she's not, so she is trying to destroy what we have built. She wants me to suffer. We'll fight it together, Carrie said, taking his hand and squeezing it hard. I am sorry for what I said, for pushing you away, for not being the partner you deserve. I am sorry, too, for not being more understanding about the pressure you're under. They held each other, but Carrie could feel the strain between them, like a physical thing. It felt like a third person in the room, pushing them apart even as they tried to hold on. The lawsuit consumed June for the next 2 weeks. He became withdrawn, spending hours calling lawyers, each one telling him it would cost thousands to defend, even though the case was baseless. The stress began to show at school in ways he couldn't hide. He had a panic attack during class, while teaching the old man and the sea. His chest got tight and his vision narrowed until he had to leave mid-lesson, stumbling into the hallway while students stared with concern. His principal called him in for a conversation the next day. His job wasn't threatened directly, but June heard the unspoken warning clearly. If he couldn't handle the classroom, they would have to reconsider his position. He came home that day and broke down completely. All the stress, fear, overwhelmed him at once, like a wave he'd been holding back, finally crashed over him. Carrie found him at the kitchen table with his head in his hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. I can't do this, June whispered, his voice broken. The lawsuit, the job, feeling like I am failing you and your daughter and my students. It's too much, I'm drowning. Carrie sat beside him and took his hands, holding on as if she could anchor him to shore. Then let's stop doing it alone. Let's actually be partners instead of 2 people drowning separately in the same house. I don't know how. Neither do I. But we will figure it out together, for real this time. No more shutting each other out. No more keeping score of who was more stressed or who was sacrificing more. They talked until dawn, really talked, without blame or trying to win. They laid everything bare in a way they hadn't since they first met in that coffee shop, right after their marriages had exploded. They shared their fears, their insecurities, their needs. They had been too scared to say anything because asking for help felt like admitting weakness. When the sun came up, they were exhausted but closer than they had been in weeks. "I think we need couples counseling," Carrie said. "Not because we are broken, but because I do not want to repeat the mistakes I made in my last marriage. I can't lose you the way I lost myself with Ricky." "I agree. Let's find someone good and commit to it." They started therapy the next week with a counselor who specialized in all blended families and second marriages. It changed everything, giving them the tools to talk about feelings they'd struggled to express. Carrie learned to ask for help specifically instead of expecting June to read her mind. June learned to express his own needs without feeling selfish. The lawsuit was dismissed 3 weeks later when Lisa Marie's lawyer realized there was no case and told her to withdraw it. June's teaching position was saved when the community rallied, writing letters to the school board about his impact on their children, how he had changed their lives. 23 letters arrived from current and former students, and from parents who had watched their kids transform from reluctant readers into book lovers. And Carrie's cookbook was released to strong reviews and steady sales that promised a sustainable career. Publishers Weekly called it a love letter to fam food that goes beyond the genre. Her mother would have been proud. Her daughter then gave birth to a healthy baby girl on a rainy spring morning. The world felt washed, clean, and new. Carrie held her granddaughter and cried June's arm around her, feeling hope bloom in her chest like flowers after winter. The baby had her mother's eyes and her father's nose, but her grip was all her own, strong and certain. They had survived their first real crisis together, scarred but standing, committed to being true partners. Chapter 10. Forgiveness and Forever. One late summer morning, Carrie woke and found June already awake, sitting on the edge of their bed. He was staring out at the sunrise, painting the sky impossible colors, deep orange, then pink, then gold. She gently touched his shoulder, feeling the warmth of his skin. "What are you thinking about?" "How different my life is from what I imagined as a kid," he said, "and how grateful I am for it. I thought I knew what happiness looked like, and I was just completely wrong." Carrie sat beside him, and they watched the sunrise fill their room with the light of a new day. They had been living together for over 3 years now. They survived her daughter's pregnancy and June's lawsuit, and learned how to fight, make up, and really talk through difficult things. "Do you ever think about them? What could have been?" "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I don't think I would change anything. Does that make me a terrible person? Grateful for the betrayal because of where it led me?" "No, it makes you honest. I feel the same. Ricky's affair destroyed me, but it also set me free to be who I really am instead of who I was pretending to be." They sat in silence until June spoke again. "I forgave her, Lisa Marie," he explained. "A few weeks ago, I realized I was carrying all this anger, and it wasn't hurting her. It was poisoning me, making me bitter when I wanted to feel grateful. So I let it go. I decided to stop giving her rent-free space in my head." Carrie nodded slowly. She understood perfectly. "I think I've forgiven Ricky, too. Not because he deserves it, and I'm not sure forgiveness is about that, but because I'm tired of letting what he did define my life today. I want to be someone who was betrayed once, not someone still being hurt by my own anger." Exactly. The anger was becoming who I was. Carrie's phone buzzed with a message from her editor. The final book cover designs were ready for her approval. She opened the attachment and gasped. The cover was perfect, better than she'd ever imagined. It showed a worn recipe box on a checkered tablecloth. "June, look, my book is real. This is actually happening." He pulled her into his lap, both of them studying the cover. "I am so proud of you. Look at what you built from all that pain. You turned betrayal into art. We have to celebrate. Let's throw a proper book launch party at the restaurant, with everyone we love." They spent the next week planning the launch party, sending invitations and creating a special menu with Bellamy from the cookbook. That evening, Carrie stood in the dining room, surrounded by friends, staff, and her daughter holding the baby. she felt overwhelmed with gratitude for the life she had rebuilt. She spoke about her parents' legacy and the long road to this moment, about how destruction sometimes clears a path for growth. This book wouldn't exist if my life hadn't fallen apart. I never would have learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you opens the door to your very best life. Thank you all for being part of this journey. Later, as they cleaned up, June pulled her aside. His hand was shaking slightly, and Carrie saw he was nervous. "Carrie Trent, I need to ask you something." He knelt right there in the kitchen where they had laughed and argued and built a life. He pulled out a simple silver ring with a small diamond that caught the light. "I want to spend whatever time we have building new memories. Will you marry me?" Carefree's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, yes, absolutely, yes." They kissed while Bellamy whistled and the remaining staff applauded. Carrie's daughter was crying happy tears, holding her baby, who seemed to know something important was happening. They married 3 months later in a small ceremony at the restaurant on a crisp October afternoon. Her daughter officiated, her blessing bringing everyone to tears. She spoke of her mother rebuilding her life and finding real love. Carrie wore a simple cream-colored dress and carried her mother's recipe cards tied with a ribbon instead of a bouquet. June wore a navy suit and cried through his vows, his voice breaking as he promised to always see her, value her, and make space for her dreams. He read a passage from his novel about second chances. She was at the next table, close enough to see everything and brave enough to act. In watching him fail at love, she learned how to succeed. Ricky didn't attend. He'd remarried and moved away, starting over. But he sent a card wishing them well and acknowledging the pain he had caused. It was something. Lisa Marie sent a gift, a set of vintage kitchen knives with a note. "For building something beautiful from the ruins. I'm glad you both found what I couldn't give you." The ceremony celebrated not just love, but survival. When June kissed his bride, Carrie has tasted promise and all the good that comes after the terrible. That night, they drove home as husband and wife, their new last name, Trent Carter, a symbol of two broken people who became whole together. They sat in the driveway before going inside, holding hands, just breathing in the enormity of the moment, a life they had built from scratch. "We made it," June whispered. "We did. Any regrets about any of it?" Carrie thought back over the years from that first credit card bill to this moment, about the betrayal, the pain, about finding June and learning to love again despite the fear, and about finally choosing herself. "Not one," she said. "Every terrible moment led me right here. I wouldn't change a thing, especially if not the pain. It taught me who I am. It taught me what I deserve. And it taught me I am strong enough to survive anything." They walked into their house together, closing one door and opening another. Inside, Carrie's daughter was waiting with the baby, ready to babysit, while they left for a honeymoon weekend. In the years that followed, Carrie's cookbook became a modest bestseller, finding readers hungry for stories of resilience. She wrote 2 more, each one deeper and more personal. June's novel was published to critical acclaim, earning him a small, loyal readership and a teaching job at the local college. They taught workshops together about creativity after trauma, about rebuilding your life, and about the sheer courage it takes to start completely over. Carrie's daughter thrived, raising her baby with unconditional family support. She forgave Jake, but never took him back, and built a beautiful life. People would ask Carrie how she survived it all, and she'd smile and say, "I stopped fighting for a dead marriage, and I started fighting for a life that was worth living." Because the greatest revenge wasn't anger or making her ex-husband suffer. It was building a life so full of love and joy that was nothing more than a stepping stone, not a prison. Carrie learned the table next to betrayal could become the table of salvation. And sometimes the person sitting next to your pain is exactly who you need to find. She learned that destruction is just making space for creation, that endings are also beginnings, that the worst day of your life might be the first day of your real life if you are brave enough to see what's on the other side. And most importantly, she learned that she was enough. She had always been enough. She would always be enough. Not for everyone, maybe, but for the right person, and that was everything.